on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well, having a good afternoon, morning, evening, however you're watching this on a Tuesday. And a bit of a Manchester United news update here. A bit of a short, sharp sweep. I'll try and keep it as short as I can anyway. Of a news update regarding Sir Jim Ratcliffe, his plans, and his seemingly nearing impending 25% acquisition of Manchester United. But in particular, what he plans on doing if indeed he were to acquire this 25%. But I guess more importantly, if he were to acquire sporting control of Manchester United as well, because obviously we're getting closer and closer to this board of directors vote happening on Thursday, when the board of directors are going to vote on if this acquisition of 25% of United is going to go through. Of course, Ineos, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, are set to acquire some of the Glazers shares as well as some of the shares of the minority shareholders of Manchester United, acquiring 25% of the business, and also seemingly, if indeed all goes to plan for Ineos, acquiring sporting control of Manchester United as well. Now, how they're going to get there, having Ineos members on the board of directors, those sort of finer details are being thrashed out right now. But more details are surfacing, more reports are being put out there about Ineos's plans for the sporting side of things, if indeed this does get successfully voted upon, and indeed it does happen. I mean, there are reports suggesting that by the end of the week, Ineos could have really the keys to the castle, not for Manchester United totally, but certainly when it comes to sporting matters on the club, and we could see the beginning stages of this real Ratcliffe United overhaul, certainly on the sporting side of things. He wants complete control when it comes to transfers, when it comes to recruitment in and out of Manchester United, when it comes to scouting, when it comes to managers, when it comes to executives at the club, sporting directors, etc, etc, etc. So if indeed Ineos were to be successful and acquire this 25%, which looks like it's going to happen, there's reportedly an agreement in principle between the Glazers and Ineos. It just needs to be ratified, it just needs to be voted upon, and these finer details that are being thrashed out just need to be thrashed out as they currently are at the moment. What does Ratcliffe have planned? Now, we spoke about this morning, KG and myself, talking about some of the details that are coming out. There have been reports already about people that could be brought in, Paul Mitchell, people's jobs could be in jeopardy, such as Richard Arnold, John Murto, et al. But also, what is really starting to get quite interesting now is these new details about these overviews that Ratcliffe is planning, and actually a bit of an overhaul that he could have planned as well as some comments he made actually 4 years ago about Manchester United, about what Ineos would do differently if they were in charge, and taking some swipes actually at the Glazers and United for what they've done negatively in the years post Sir Alex Ferguson. So there's plenty to get into here, so be sure to smash a like on the like button, be sure to subscribe as well, bottom right hand corner. Now, a really interesting piece written by The Athletic, by Mark Critchley, who spoke about what will happen, or certainly what the aims of Ineos are, if indeed they were to be successful in acquiring 25% of Manchester United, but in particular if they were to be successful in actually gaining this sporting control over the club as well. Now, it has been written, quote, "If Ineos does acquire sporting control, sources say Sir Jim Ratcliffe would enact a, quote, holistic overview." Now, that is a specific quote in this article. Holistic overview of the club's performance at every level, taking time to learn what works, what does not work, which made me think, what doesn't work at Manchester United? How long have you got? And consequently, what needs to change? Again, how long have you got? Now, it's quite funny, isn't it? Because you could say, you could have a look under the hood, under the bonnet, wherever you're from, different words. But the point being is, if you have a look really under the bonnet at Manchester United, under the hood, and you see what works, what doesn't work, you'll probably come to the same conclusion that most people do. It's under the current ownership. That's what doesn't work at Manchester United. Plenty of good people have come in, plenty of good people have gone, plenty of good players have come in, plenty of good players are gone. The constant here is the ownership, the people that currently still will own the majority of Manchester United, the Glazers. That's what needs to change, but I suppose that's not what is going to change, certainly in the immediate future, under the Ineos 25% acquisition regime, or certainly the Ineos sporting overhaul regime. So they can't change that, but what can they change? And look, there's plenty of things they can change. As I mentioned, sporting directors, recruitment, scouting networks, etc. There's things they can change, and seemingly that's what Ineos are going to do. Now, the scale and breadth of the potential changes are difficult to gauge, according to The Athletic, at this stage, not least because, really, a lot has changed since they actually got a look at things at Manchester United. You have to remember, it's been 7 months since both you had the 9-2 Foundation and Ineos visiting Old Trafford and visiting Carrington to have a bit of a closer look, not only at the financials, but also just a first-hand look at the club's inner workings as well. So any ideas they may have had, things might have changed. You know, a lot can change in football in 7 months' time. Now, for now, the best indicator that people are looking at when it comes to Ineos and their track record of changing things and what model they may try and adopt is the record that they have at other clubs, most notably, of course, their ownership of Nice, where their years of mediocre league finishes, internal disputes and flashes of fans' unrest, some are saying are beginning to make way for a tentative sense of promise. Of course, they're second in Ligue 1 right now after 8 games following an unbeaten start, with an employing of a very young coach, a 34-year-old head coach, Francesco Ferroli, who is a disciple of Roberto De Zerbi, of course, doing great things at Brighton at the moment. He was appointed in the summer. Ferroli is not the only relatively new face. Fabrice Bouquet was hired as the chief executive a year ago from Lorient, while Florent Gisofli and Laurent Bachir subsequently joined from Lens as sporting director and performance director, respectively. So people are pointing to Nice and saying, yeah, it didn't go well for several years, but they've kind of had what is expected at Manchester United, a sporting overhaul with a new head coach coming in, a new sporting and performance director coming in, a new chief executive coming in, and these are things that one would expect at Manchester United as well. Many people are assuming that Richard Arnold, the chief executive, would go and be replaced, some suggesting by the former PSG chief executive / Juventus general manager. People are speculating that John Murtough will probably be out, Paul Mitchell will come in, probably other names will also be involved in this too. So we might see a similar sporting overhaul. And again, that's what people are expecting. This sort of similar sporting overhaul we could see at Manchester United, similarly that we've seen at Nice. Now, someone that could be overseeing all of this isn't just Sir Jim Ratcliffe, it's also expected to be Sir Dave Brailsford. He reportedly, when it came to Nice, and this is just a case of this is what happened at Nice, so something similar might happen at United, at least initially. Obviously, it can't be completely the same, but this seems to be their model at the very least. So Dave Brailsford led reportedly an internal audit of Nice's processes last year and found himself filling the gaps it created. As director of Ineos Sport, Brailsford reportedly ensures that each department, football, cycling, sailing, rugby, and marathon running, is aligned with the easy for me to say, group's wider federalist business structures, and reforms at Nice are instructive for United fans wondering what a Ratcliffe-led sporting department could look like. Therefore, it's expected that he would have a key role behind the scenes and would have a key role certainly when it comes to an Ineos reshuffle behind the scenes. So, you know, you could see that and saying, well, this is what they've done at Nice. They had a complete sporting overhaul. Not initially, it must be said, but now certainly in the last 12 months they have. And at the moment, it would be paying dividends. We'll wait and see till the end of the season. Granted, it's only 8 games in. We'll have to wait and see. Now, some, according to The Athletic, and this is quite interesting, some are arguing that all of this has kind of happened a little bit because United already underwent a significant and long-awaited restructuring of their football operations 2.5 years ago, following John Murtough's appointment as football director. Now, they say this was because Richard Arnold was coming in and Edward was on his way out, and it led to this overhaul. But as several United fans, including myself, have pointed out, okay, you had a bit of an overhaul in the structure at Manchester United, but has a lot really changed? You brought in Erik ten Hag. Okay, good decision. That's a tick. And things have changed somewhat, but really, under the Murtough and Richard Arnold regime, you're only going to get so far. Now, that's not me to say that who Jim Ratcliffe's going to be bringing in is going to be any better, but they're certainly not the best in class. And the bar has been set relatively low at Manchester United, hasn't it, as well? So what we are expecting here is to see, again, a sporting overhaul at United with several people being brought in, several current people that are already at United probably going, and that's to what is to be expected if indeed this 25% acquisition and most importantly the sporting control is ratified on Thursday at this boardroom meeting. Now, what's quite interesting here too is some comments from the past, because people always bring up comments from the past, particularly Ratcliffe when speaking about Manchester United. Now, in an interview with The Times in 2019, at a time when Ratcliffe had the status of Britain's richest man, the Ineos founder explained why he brought a French football club and also, most importantly, gave his thoughts on what had gone wrong at Manchester United post Sir Alex Ferguson. This is what he had to say, quote, "Ineos never wants to be the dumb money in town. Never. However, they, referring to Manchester United, are in quite a big pickle as a business. They haven't got the manager selection right, haven't bought well. They have been the dumb money, which you can see with players like Fred. By the way, what a sideswipe at Fred. This was in 2019, but imagine that. Fred is like 50 Cent going around going, what did he say F me for? Oh God, there's been plenty of poor players post Sir Alex Ferguson, not just Fred, but Ratcliffe, seemingly not a Fred fan. Fortunately, Fred's not at United anymore, so there you go. But it continues, saying United have spent an immense amount since Ferguson left and been poor, to put it mildly. Shockingly poor, to be honest. We have a different approach here, to be moderately intelligent about it, try and do it more grassroots, trying to locate young talents. Some clubs have an ability to do that. Southampton, Lille, that must be pointed out. Southampton did have that reputation, but they're in the Championship at the moment because they got those young players and will develop those unknown players and then sold them. And eventually, that ain't sustainable, and now they're in the Championship. But it continues. United have done it really poorly. They have lost the plot. Now, it must be said, it was pretty harsh to point out Fred, but it's not wildly different from what Manchester United fans have said about the recruitment and about player selection and about managerial selection. Now, granted, this was prior to Erik ten Hag's selection, and it has been widely reported that Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe actually admired the work that Ten Hag has done in his tenure over the last sort of 12 months or so, so he's not going to be going anywhere. But what we can expect, as I mentioned, is this big sporting overhaul. Now, as I said this morning, when it comes to KG, I'm not putting that down. I'm not, because I've seen people saying, why are you so anti Sir Jim Ratcliffe? And it's really got nothing to do with the person who won this race, and it's definitely got nothing to do with you wanted Qatari money. Not at all. Not at all in the slightest for me. What it comes down to is that, as I mentioned earlier on, the biggest problems at United are still going to be there regardless, and that is that the Glazers are still going to own Manchester United. They're still going to be the majority shareholders, and they're still going to have the majority of the voting power, which is key too. Now, there are aspects of this right now that we don't know. We don't know what if there is a roadmap, and if there is, what it looks like in terms of a buyout over time for Ineos. That's what they've constantly and consistently said. This is the first step of a full buyout and a full purchase of the club. If we find out post Thursday that yes, those markers are in place and this is the roadmap, then there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that is certainly something I can get behind. Of course, in the short term, if they bring in people that are better than people that are already there in the executive department, in the sporting department, new directors of footballs, new sporting directors, I can get behind that as well. Stadium plans, I can get behind that. But unless there is that element of light at the end of the tunnel and a confirmation that there is a sort of escape plan from the Glazers, it's tough to swallow and it's tough to get behind. And I realise that I myself can't really change that much about it, but you know, that is still something that just will stick with me regardless. Absolutely, it will stick with me. And again, those kind of details, we're going to have to wait and see if indeed we do find them out. But I want to ask you guys, and you can let me know this in the comment section below. What would you like to see when it comes to the Sir Jim Ratcliffe United overhaul? Do you care particularly much about, you know, the sporting control and the changes that seemingly are going to be implemented? What changes would you like to see implemented? What's the top priority for you? For me, the top one would be, what is the roadmap to get the Glazers out of the football club? Is there a roadmap to get the Glazers out of the football club? Has that been discussed? Is that on the table? What does that even look like? Do you care about what's going to happen with the debt? Are you going to help service that debt? Are you going to be adding to that debt? What's going on with that? What's happening with the stadium? Are you going to be yourself funding that stadium? That seems a bit strange for someone that only owns 25% of the business to be footing the bill completely to do the stadium. How is that going to even work? Questions like that, do they pale in significance to things like the sporting side of things and who's going to be the director of football? Or is that a critical thing for you as well? Do you want to see United care once again about performance, about winning, when it kind of feels like that's been a sort of side dish for the Glazers of, no, it's a franchise, it's a business, it's about making money, and winning That's nice if it happens. We don't really care, though, if it doesn't happen. Do you care about that? So let me know your thoughts about that. What changes would you like to see? Is it a positive that we're seeing these stories that Ratcliffe, when he comes in, is going to have this holistic overview and is going to be looking at what is working, what isn't working, and what changes need to be made? What changes would you like to see made? And what conclusions do you think he'll come to when he completes this overview of Manchester United as well? Let me know your thoughts about all of it in the comment section below. Really interested to see what you guys have to say about that. What's on tap for the remainder of the week as well? Well, we kind of forget that we do have a match this coming weekend as well. Saturday, 8 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday. Another late kickoff for Manchester United away at Sheffield United. As we go through the week, of course, we'll be covering that. Tomorrow we'll be live once again, the morning show. Myself and KG will be live with you at 9 a.m. We're also going to have a brand new show debuting tomorrow evening, 6 p.m. live. I won't give too much away right now, but a little bit of a tease to make sure that you've clicked subscribe and clicked the notifications bells. You'll be notified when that show goes live as well. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. too. I mentioned Thursday is the key day. That's the vote day. We're going to seemingly be getting the news, maybe a statement, maybe confirmation from Manchester United that indeed Jim Ratcliffe has acquired 25% of the club. So we're going to be all over that as well. Plus then we get into Friday, press conferences, previews, etc. You know us at United View. We'll have it all covered. So there you go, guys. A bit of a Manchester United news update. Let me know your thoughts about everything in the comment section below. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.